Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined by Barry LaBov, who is the author of the great book, Power of Differentiation. And also, he is the owner of marketing, communications, and training agency. For me, he is a great teacher in branding. He's been around for a lot of time, and we talk about brands versus like just a logo. So, hi, Barry. Thank you for joining in.
Well, thank you, Alex. I think it'll be a lot of fun and very interesting, and I can't wait to start. I think it should be a great time.
Definitely. All righty. So, can you tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I've been running my company, which is a marketing, communications, and training company for about 40 years, so a long, long time in the United States. And we get to work with some really wonderful companies, ranging from Macallan Scotch in Scotland, Harley Davidson, Audi, Volkswagen, and I could go on and on and on. But they're really great companies, and we have been able to learn a lot from them, as well as we hope we've helped them over the years. Over the last 2 years, I've written a book, which is now published and available. It's called The Power of Differentiation. And it's all about what our company focuses on, Alex. We focus on one word, one thing, and that's differentiation. And differentiation is 6 syllables, 15 letters, so it's not easy to pronounce, but it's really important. And that is trying your very best, whether you're a one person company or whether you have 100,000 people in your company, to determine what makes you, your brand, your products, your service distinct, unique, not necessarily superior, but distinct. What makes it what it is? Why is it to some level successful? And once you determine that, which is a great experience. It's not easy to do, by the way, because we're so close to what we do every day that we think, it's normal, nobody cares. But once you determine it, you then have to honor it. You have to name it. You have to be able to explain it and share it with the world. The third step in this, and I'll be happy to share more into this in this podcast, but the third step's the most exciting, and that is before you share it with the world, you celebrate it with the most important people, and that's your employees. That's the people who serve, build, represent, fix, service, supply, whatever it is, that brand to make it what it is. So you determine what makes it unique, you name it, you give it the honor it deserves, and then you celebrate it with the most important people, then the world. That's what we do every single day.
That's awesome. I really enjoyed that you are defining it as marketing, communication, and training. Because I would think that you are very close to branding, and and I look at you as a super experienced branding guru, because I am not super good at it, but I go and dig around with my own brand and company rebranding. And the first conversation that we had with you, it was really inspiring, and I managed to think and get better at grasping the direction. I didn't become an expert after a 20-minute call with you, but I became better. This is like a stance of a professional where 15 to 20 minutes of your time can make an impact and teach a person something. So I think that a lot of people can learn something from you. So the 5-step process that you define for your business and your work, Did you write about it in the book as well?
Yes, in my book, we dedicate 6 chapters to it. So I have an overview chapter of the entire process. It's called Brand Reengineering. So we honored it by naming it. So, and then each chapter dives into one step as we go through all 5 steps. So it's in the book. Anybody that purchases the book is able to go see what we do, and they can go do it themselves. Now, they won't do it the way my company would do it because we have our own distinct approach. But hey, I'm happy if a lot of people look at it, read the book, say, hey, let's try this. And in their own way, they do it, Alex, which is part of my goal. My goal for the book is not to sell so many of them, it's to inspire over 1 million people worldwide with the message. That's my goal. And some people think, well, that's kind of a crazy goal, but it's really a meaningful one because, as an example, we're working with one company right now, a healthcare company, and they have 16,305 coworkers or employees. We're helping to influence them and inspire them. So there's 16,000 right there. So that's our goal. But throughout the book, there are stories about how people determined what made them unique and rallied their company around it. And there are stories of people that had great brands and could really have done something great, but they didn't care that much. So of course I did not mention their names. I didn't want to do that, but they're great stories. And in those cases, many of them allowed themselves to become commodities. They reduced the value of what they did and tried to look and act and smell and feel like everybody else. And in doing that, not only did they lower their prices and lose their business or at least lose profit, but they lost the hearts and souls of the people who produced it or created it, their employees.
I see that this issue speaks to me really. And I think it is a very sound into today's world where it is easier to produce a product, but we are pushed to run against the market and lower the prices. And when we have lower barrier of entry for the production, for example, the world of software as a service apps,
Mhm.
the websites look the same.
Mhm.
There is a correct way to put the website blocks one by one. The blocks have different function, and people stick to this very methodology with every SaaS. And people think that every one of those companies have a brand. I don't think they do. Every one of those have a logo. And that's about it. When speaking about their brand, they have a logo and a website. That's kind of it. They don't have this feel. They don't have the love towards the product. Uh, yeah. So I think what you're speaking is very valid in today's world, and your knowledge is uh, is helpful. So this book can surprise you by the speed of how you reach your goal.
Yeah, you and I talked about it, Alex. It's very easy for a company on a website, as an example, to promise everything that you think everybody wants to see at a very low price and make it really easy to work with you. The problem with that is if you're competing with another 100 or 500 or 1,000 other companies doing exactly that, there's not much hope that you're going to get a lot of business. And what we've found in all the years of talking with thousands and thousands of customers of hundreds of companies, price is not the number one issue with customers. Now, once in a while it will be, but as a rule, it's not. They want to find a service or a product that they think has a uniqueness to it that will help their certain situation. And sometimes that brand, it could be your company or anybody's company, it could be the way that you work with them. That could be what we would call your brand experience. Could be. It could be a process that you use. It could be, hey, whenever we do this, we go through these 3 steps to make sure the quality is high. Okay, whatever. Could be access. You have the certain algorithms or certain data that others don't have. Whatever it is, that's more important to share, let's say on a website, than, hey, our price is low and we do a million different things. Because what happens is people get overloaded. You look at a website, we do everything, we do all this and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, in my field, I don't think I ever call myself a full service agency. I don't believe I've ever done that, but we will be called that once in a while. But the truth is, a full service agency, what's that mean? Everybody I know that has an agency says, hey, we're a full service. Okay, so what? I would rather be the agency that focuses on one word, and that we have a 5-step process that has at least one step that nobody in the world does. And if you as a client have an interest, great, let's talk. And if you go, no, I don't need that, I just want a logo real quick, then I'm going to go, okay, we're probably not your best choice because we will not be the lowest price. And we do not recommend you just go do a logo without doing all the work you need to do before that. Learn from your customer base, identify what makes you truly unique. And then, yes, look at a logo if you need one. It could be your logo is not really a big issue. It's okay. Maybe you need to update it just a little bit, but not throw it out. So I think what you're saying is right. It's very easy, like you said, in the world you're talking about with software, they look so much alike and everything's easy and everything's perfect and all of that. And the whole point is it's impossible to tell them apart. Another thing to think in this is that how easy is it, let's say in the case you're talking about, for a customer to connect with you? Or do they have to fill out a form? So if they have to fill out a form, well, that's a barrier. If they don't have, let's say the customer wants to call and talk to a human being to have an interaction, because sometimes there are products where you go, gee, I have questions. I have more questions than I have answers. There are many companies that will not offer a telephone number. They will not offer even an email. They'll give you a form to fill out. You'll go to a customer service email database, and then you'll wait. And I'm saying even little things like, hey, we'll talk to you. Hey, we can set up a 5-minute, 10-minute meeting and explain what we do and answer your questions. Even little things like that can stand out and be different.
How do you think the picture is different when you only have access to an AI chatbot that is straight right with you, but
Right.
it is never a human? It may be super smart. It will know all the documentation of the company. It will know your purchase history. It will have access to your personal details, and it will also verify it with you. So is that better?
Well, it's better than nothing. And if the chat AI is able to answer the questions that person wants, it does its job. But too often, the chat AI bot will say, if you say, I'd like to know what the difference between this offering and that offering is, and if I get that offering, does it also include such and such? The bot will then say, go to this link and take a look. Well, that's the link I looked at that drove me to the bot to ask the question. And then what happens, Alex, 90+% of the time, the customer gives up and says, okay, I'm going somewhere else. So if your bot is trained that well and it says, oh, great question, you don't get such and such with that, and you are able to do blank, and you feel that that's the answer, then your bot's done its job. But you look for the uniqueness that you can offer. If you have the most advanced chat bot that's found anywhere, that might be a differentiation. Talk to so and so, the most advanced chat bot, and blah blah blah. Maybe that's your differentiation if you have it. But we're talking about one thing here, but it's the experience that your customer gets when they go to your website or when they work with you. Then one thing in the book that we talk about is your experience. So for instance, Alex, for your company, let's say you offer phenomenal products and service, your software and all of your work is great. If your experience, the experience of trying to work with your company is difficult, that customer will not work with you again, or whoever it is. But they're not going to say, I love the product and I love everything, but I don't like the service. They're going to go, I don't like the brand. I'm not working with them. They don't distinguish the difference between the experience they receive and the product. As an example, in the automotive industry, if you go to buy a car at a dealership and you're so excited because you saw the commercial on TV or you looked at something on social media and you go, oh my gosh, and you went to the website, it's the most beautiful car in the world. If you go to that dealership and they treat you poorly and it's terrible and you go, oh my gosh, it was a horrible experience, what do you say? Well, you walk out and say, I'll never buy that brand again. And you go, but wait a minute. It wasn't the brand. It wasn't the product that was bad. It was the service, the experience. And the customer will say, Alex, I don't care. I'll never buy that brand. And I'll tell everyone else not to buy that brand. So we have to understand our experience is our brand in the eyes of the consumer.
Agreed. When I fly with a company and I go to go to get a coffee in the airport where they got me, and I get the coffee and it's really bad. I'm like, I will never fly with those guys again.
Right.
And can you fill us in, how did you get to working in this niche? What is your story of becoming the professional that you are?
I started out in music. I was a musician. And from the time I was in my early teens, so when I was 14, I was in a band with my brother. It was a 2-person band. I played drums. I also played keyboards and organ with my right hand, and I sang. So it sounded horrible. I guarantee it sounded horrible. But I wrote songs. I learned how to perform. And that inspired me to do more creative work. So I then spent the next 10 years in rock bands playing music. I had some songs that were on the Billboard charts. I had a video that was on VH1 music videos, things like that. And my band was somewhat successful. We did not sell many records. At the same time, Alex, I started a business and I was creating jingles, those irritating little songs for commercials. And I ended up being pretty successful on that, producing and writing and selling over, 500 of them over a few year period of time, just a lot of jingles. Then one day I had a tragedy, and the tragedy was my father passed away. He was young, he was 62 years old. And all of a sudden I've stopped and I thought, I don't know how long I'm going to live. At the time I was 30. And I thought, I could die any minute. I mean, why am I acting like I've got all the time in the world? I don't. At that moment, I decided to give myself the opportunity, the privilege, and the permission to choose one path instead of having my life in 2 different camps, being a rock musician, but also having a jingle company. And I chose to work in the jingle company and just focus on that because I thought it would be more fair. I thought if I worked really hard, I could do well. Whereas in music, for a living, it's not really fair. You could work really hard and get nothing, and you could be pretty darn lucky and get a lot. And I just don't like that kind of environment. And what happened then was I focused all my energy on running my business. And we went from doing jingles to doing some audio work. And the big change happened about a year or so after that when North American Van Lines reached out to me. They were a client of mine. I did some audio work for them, cassette recording, something, nothing big. And they asked me to take over their marketing department, absorb it into my company, and then they would give me the next 3 years of their business. And they just wanted to get rid of their marketing department is basically what they were trying to do. And Alex, I turned them down. I said, no, I think I'm an audio guy. I don't think I'm a marketing guy. And, but I said, look, I'll give you the names of other companies that can help you here in the area. So I thought, hey, I did a nice job. I did my good deed. And I moved on. Well, they called me again and asked, and I said, well, I'll give you some other companies you might like. Then they called me again. I was like, I'll give you more companies. Here's some more companies. So about a year later, they called me up and said, Barry, we want you to take over the marketing department, absorb it into your business, and be our marketing agency for the next 3 years. And I said, you've been asking me this for over a year. Why do you keep coming back? I've given you all these other companies to go to. And he said, well, it's because we trust you. And that really hit me. I went, oh, wow. So I said, okay, let's do it. And the client said, are you serious? And I said, yes, let's do it. At that point, I became a marketing company, an advertising agency. Little did I realize that since most of my clients at the time, because I was doing jingles, were advertising agencies, they would all say, I'll do no more work with you because you're now a competitor. So in essence, I picked up this big opportunity and lost most of my clients in my area, which turned out fine. So from that point, I then was honored as Entrepreneur of the Year within another year. So all of that culminated because I had been asked, I had been trusted by a client to take on a role that I turned down numerous times. And then I finally took the leap and did it. And it all brought me to where I am today.
How was this migration? First, the story is crazy.
It is crazy.
A car company going after you saying like, here, get all those people and they're yours. And they were nice enough to hold on to those specialists for a year, looking for a home for them. That is expensive. That is a great move from the company. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how was this change for you? So you were working basically as a solopreneur, work like the mix between a solopreneur and an artist, really, because you were producing the music, you were producing the jingles and then selling it. And the step towards being a company, having employees and bigger part of your work would have shifted into managing people. How did you take that?
It was different for me. It was a bit of a challenge, but it was like being in a rock band where I was used to having 3 or 4 guys and being able to try to keep them motivated and keep them working and keep them excited about what we're doing and focus on what they did best, not on what they can't do or couldn't do. And so as I absorbed people in, that's what happened. And I needed to have more people because I did have more business going on. Not only that, I needed to have people with me who understood better than I did some of the areas that my company was now working in. So, for example, I did not understand graphic arts. I was not an artist. as far as like a print artist, a graphic artist. So I had to bring people in that could do that, because I would go, well, I don't do that. I do some areas of what we do, but I don't do them all. So Alex, what I had to also do is find people who were better than me in specific areas and treat them with respect, because I needed them, and hopefully they felt that they were treated well and that they needed me or wanted to be with me. And it was a growing experience for me. But it was a lot like being in a rock band. And I still run my company like it's a rock band, and that's for better or for worse. It's a little loose. It's a lot of innovation, lots of experimentation on things. And ultimately, most of the time you come up with something good, but once in a while you don't. You go, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and create something else. It was a change. So, but I did it very conservatively too. So I never took out a loan. I didn't, purchase a big building or anything in the beginning. It took me a long time. I did not want to be pressured financially by a bank, let's say, because I couldn't make the loan payments. I just didn't want that pressure in my life, because I had enough other pressures.
A lot of startups in the companies I worked with, they would be pressured to grow, because they take a bunch of investor funding, and they have all those plans, and then investors come and say, hey, you have all those plans, you need to grow, grow aggressively, even if the other strategies would have been as viable as this huge growth straight away. And they end up blowing all the investor money into marketing. And then they say, okay, now we will deal with whatever consequences we have with this explosive growth. Did we get a lot of clients? We did. All right. Can we handle the clients? No, we cannot have this volume of clients worked out on the same level of what we want this experience to be for the clients. So we will hire more employees. They get more funds to get more people to facilitate the growth that they had. And this is like a crazy loop for the company, really. So the way you grown, like steady but slowly, is oftentimes much better.
I think, what you described was really well explained. And that's one reason I stayed away from it, because too often I've worked with companies that are trying to grow no matter what. And they could be startups, or they could be looking to be acquired. So they need to go fatten it up to be big. And it changes the way people look at their own company. The leaders of that company may not care about service anymore. They may not care about relationships. They care about getting more stuff in the door. And I know that there's a good business case sometimes for that. I don't buy into it. And I recognize that it is a valid approach. I also realize that for me, I don't want to have more pressure on my shoulders to artificially grow my company, while I would also be having to replace employees who are upset, replace customers who are upset, make very little of any money doing it, and then hope all that pain and suffering is worth it when I finally sell the company. I just find that whole concept unappealing to me. So I don't do it. I've had many opportunities to sell my company over the years, and to some really nice people that I knew also. And in most cases, it wasn't quite like that, but it was too close to that. It was, you're going to go work for so many years. You're going to go do this and this and that for us. And then if you get so much business up to this point, after so many years, you'll get the rest of the money that we're promising you. And I thought, I don't want to do that. I'm already doing it okay, and I don't want to go through that. So for me, and again, now keep in mind, I'm an old guy and I did it this way. It's not the only way. And I don't think the way I did it is the way. It's just, I've seen more people, especially small businesses, get in trouble because they were chasing the dollar, chasing growth at any cost. Uh, they were getting loans from banks, multiple banks, credit lines, and everything else, and living day to day. And I found it like it was very, to me, I said before, it's very unappealing. I just think it's just not why I would be in business. I'm in business for different reasons than just trying to fatten the calf and then sell it and get the heck out. I'm not in business for that. I'm in business because I love what I do.
Do you think it's because of your music and band background? Because those people who are on Twitter boasting how many exits they had, that means how many teams that they left behind, saying, okay, now you work kind of right. Here is the guys who buy you and what you built and whatever my input has been here, and they take a bunch of money. They're out of the door.
Yeah. Well, Alex, that's great. I'll share a story I've never shared. I've been on like 70, 75 podcasts, and you just brought up something I've never shared. So I'll bring it up, and because you inspired it. When I was considering selling my company years and years ago, because I was getting these offers, I called two of my friends who had just sold their companies, two different guys, two different companies. And it was interesting. One of them was very young, much younger than me, and he had done very well. And I said, I'm getting these offers, I don't really want to do it. And he said, well, Barry, here's the thing. He said, I got rid of my company. And he said, I sold it to somebody. And after about 2 years, I got out. And he said, I'm glad. He said, I hated what I was doing. I hated my company. I hated doing it. I said, oh. And he said, but you love what you do. He said, so I don't know if you really want to sell it to an outside company. So I went, oh, okay. I talked to my other friend who had gotten out of his business. And he said, look, I hated what I was doing. I absolutely did. It was torture for me. And he said, I'm so glad I'm out. I'm glad I sold it. I'm done with it. I said, okay. And he said, but Barry, you love what you do. You love your people, right? And I go, yeah. He said, you love your clients, right? And I go, yeah. He said, I don't think you should go do that. You should stay in the business or offer it up to people within your business, but don't become like everyone else. Because he said, you love what you do. And so, Alex, what you're describing is there are people who they're really not in business because they love it. They're in business because they love to make money, let's say, or they love the game of being in business, and that's okay. For me, I love what I do. Now, there's portions of what I do at my company that I don't care for, but there are many, many things I absolutely love to do. And you mentioned being in a rock band as an example. Being creative is what I like to do, and helping my team do things they've never done before, being able to create or do things they have never done, helping our clients to overcome very unique, sometimes very complex problems, that fulfills me. And so as an example, if I was just trying to bring in business and not paying attention to my people or my clients, I've lost what I've loved. So that's why I do not pursue it.
I understand. What would be your way of picking clients? What would be your ideal client? And how do you say, okay, those guys, I love them. I want to work with them. And those guys, nah, not so much.
the thing we look for, we have it on our website too. We go, are we a good fit? And we put this on the website because, you know, sometimes it's not a good fit. And some, you know, I love to have a new client. It's exciting, but you know, sometimes you got to go, you know, I'm not sure this is going to really turn out. So what we look for is we look for clients that are hungry, whether it's hungry for them growing or hungry for new ideas. They need to be hungry, okay? They need to want to have different input and different thoughts, different ideas presented to them, okay? And they need to be vulnerable. They need to be open and trusting. So if we meet a client and they get that, then I don't care if they're a $1 billion company or if they're a smaller, you know, 5-person company. I don't care because they're going to be exciting to work with. If we work with a company that feels they know everything they want and they want some company to go follow orders, it's probably not a good fit for us. If they want a company that's going to be super cheap and at their call 24/7, that's not going to be us. If they want a company that will be willing to be treated like a punching bag because they're dysfunctional and they'll beat that company up, but the company just puts up with it, we're not going to do that either. So we work really well with companies that are truly vulnerable and ready to grow and hungry to listen and hungry to collaborate. And that's what we look for. And we share that with companies. And I've made mistakes. I've chosen companies where that's really what it wasn't who they were. And in some cases, in the back of my head, I knew it, but I just was so excited about working with them that I overruled my better judgment. And in those cases, it turned out poorly.
I see. I recently was thinking about one of my favorite clients that we had. It was an awesome project. We got to delve into the technical project with a great company, great people, but it did not work out, and it was failing like from the middle of the project. We faced challenges that we didn't expect. We were shifting and changing the course of the project multiple times, and they finished the project and did not stay with us. It is okay because we saw that we somehow do not match in something is not working out. And I was meditating to debug what went wrong. How First it was, how do we get better so next time this kind of client sticks with us? But then it went to, let's find the issue first, and then we will think whatever we can get so much better,
right?
To next time keep the client. And what I saw was that particular client only wanted our expertise in building. They completely withheld all the marketing work from us. They said, okay, we know all the marketing. We are so creative and fancy. So we will do all that. And you do the difficult technical stuff. And then I thought that, but marketing is part of the technical stuff that we are doing, because we are building not only the back end, like how the service operates, but we are also building the front end, how the service communicates with the user, and even the parts of the marketing communication that says what the service is doing, and there is marketing inside it. So I think that was a big issue that stopped us from working together.
You know, one thing I'll share with you, and you may have run into this. I never really understood how to articulate this, but I definitely do now. I can go back and look at a number of the failures that I had, my company has had, and it's very, very often. I mean, I'm telling you, so often, and we did not deal with this kind of person well. I would deal with them today far better. Okay, not necessarily successful enough to make it work, but I would either identify it and go, okay, this isn't going to work, or at least just say, hold on a minute, this is what's going on. And that is, I call them a seagull, like the bird at at the ocean, a seagull. And this, what happens sometimes, and we've failed at most of these situations. We will start off working and we think it's really good, and our client is happy, it's going great. Then either our client disappears and gives the project to someone else, or a new person swoops on in like a seagull. But one way or another, we're going down a path thinking we're doing great, and we're being given that feedback. And then either the original client comes back, or somebody above them or whatever swoops in and changes everything. And as I've experienced that, here's what happens when that goes on. The person who swoops in first will swoop in and candidly be very difficult with the client's team, with the client itself, because this is part of the client's company. This is one of their top people. And they'll be very difficult with them and say, I don't like this. You got to change this. We're not going to do this. Well, that poor team, they're not going to go say, no, wait a minute. You swooped in. You told us that we were doing a good job. You should leave us alone. Let us do our job. They're going, okay, yes, boss. Yes. Okay, sure. Whatever you say, boss. Well, they get done getting beaten up by that person. Well, then they have to turn to the supplier, the vendor, the partner, whatever you want to call us. And they'll tend to beat us up because, they just got beat up. And I have been through that many, many times. We've had some wonderful things going on, and somebody swoops in, decides to prove their power, wipes out the work, beats up the people internally, and then the internal people turn to my company and go, okay, well, this isn't good. It doesn't work. We'll go, wait a minute. As of a week ago, you said this is the best you've ever seen. You're thrilled. You love how we're doing. They go, well, it's changed. We're not doing this anymore, whatever. And what we made the mistake of was at first looking internally and say, okay, what did we do wrong? Okay, we must have failed. Okay, it's wrong of us. Sometimes the person running that project hands it in our company would hand it off to someone else because she doesn't want to deal with it anymore. Well, that makes it worse because now we got a new person dealing with this new situation. And what we should have done is just had the confidence, and I did not at the time, to just say, hold on, let's look at this. Let's figure a way to make this work. You gave us this guidance. We responded and you said you loved it. And now today it's terrible in your eyes. What has happened? Because the feedback we got until this moment was not what we're getting now. Something changed. So let's discuss it. And it might be a great idea to change, but instead of it being an emotional and overwhelmingly negative thing, let's just look at it a little logically, a little analytically, instead of a lot emotionally, and try to solve it. So what I'm saying, Alex, is I'm not saying that's what happened there, but there's always a logical reason why something goes off the rails after it was going well. There's something, okay? And there are clients who they're not in touch with the project. And then when they swoop in to get in touch, they try to make up for their absence by throwing a lot of things at it. And then they leave again. And then they'll swoop back in a little later and do the same thing. And their employees deal with it. A lot of their employees will leave or just give up and just say, yeah, whatever you want. But that's a very common thing. in service businesses like mine, and I think yours too. And if I could inspire anybody in your audience, it would be try to have confidence when that happens to not immediately accept blame and guilt. And also don't get angry and attack the client verbally, but just stop and go, no, wait a minute. Something changed. It's not a right or wrong, but we have to make sure that, that we don't demotivate and demoralize your team and our team because we have a goal here. So how do we solve this together? And honestly, I didn't do that very well. And I think it would be tough to do too, by the way, but I haven't done that well.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask a little bit about the power of differentiation in the context of ideas. So, as I told you before, we are working on rebranding our business and fixing a few mistakes. So, I was thinking about what it is that can help us to stand out. So, I was evaluating different ideas that were coming to mind. So, my question to you is, how does the right idea feel like? So I have a number. Those are more or less the same for me on the scale of probability and how close they are to what we are. But how do I go with one of those?
Well, I think some of that is artistic. It's like writing a song. There's words you're going to use. There are different melodies you could test. The thing I think is important is avoid cliches, avoid the common words like value, service, quality, etc., because they mean very little today. In the English language, and I know you speak other languages, but in the English language, there are 200,000 different words. So why should a company go service, value, quality, and price? Those are very common words. So can we use more specialized words that mean something to us, number one? And can we avoid what our competition uses? Because sometimes our competition uses one word over and over because they're smart and they try to so-called own the word. They try to make that word theirs. And let's avoid their words and let's pick something that tells people who we are and what we are in a distinctive way, so that if nothing else, what happens is you at least stand out from the rest. So I would say that, and you say, how do you do it? You can test it with your clients. You can test it with your friends. But the thing I then say is, take a chance and put it out there and see how it works. You can always change. So if you update your website as an example, and you say, hey, let's put such and such on there, and let's have a headline that says this, and let's do such and such. Give it a month or two. See if anybody says, gee, that looks good. Let it sit there for a while. Look at it. See if it works. And if you don't like it, you can always change it or tweak it. There's an art and a science to this. So the science is, let's use some unique words. The art is sometimes you just do it. Like for my book, the book's title is The Power of Differentiation. But I mean, we looked at like 1,000 different options for the title. And some of them were so creative and so clever that you would not know that it had anything to do with differentiation. But boy, was it cool. So, there are some points where you just go, look, this is what this thing is about. This is what we are. That's it. And I'm going to stick to this and do it. So what made my book a little better, I think, was once I committed to the title, The Power of Differentiation, I looked at, okay, now I need a subtitle. Yeah, I need a little subtitle below it. And I thought, well, what could it be? And we went back and forth and we came up with a subtitle that I like a lot. And it's win, as in winning, WIN, win hearts, minds, and market share. So win hearts, minds, and market share. And so I thought, gee, that sounds good. All of a sudden, Alex, it occurred to me that it's exactly what I'm trying to do with clients, which is first win the hearts of their people. If you don't win the hearts of the people that represent your business, you're lost. Then you got to win their minds. You got to make them understand that this is smart. This is a really, really good idea. This is a good uniqueness for our company. I think I'm at a really good company. I feel like I'm doing something that gives me significance. Now, once you do that, you win the hearts and minds of your people. You're more likely to win the market share from customers because they feel it, they see it. So you ask that question. I think you test it a little bit, you commit to it, you give it a chance, and you see how you can make that new idea even better. And that's what I tried to do with the book title. The other thing I did with my book, to give you an example, is the cover of the book tells the story of differentiation. There's a lightning bolt. There's a whole bunch of people on the book cover, and there's a leader who's colored in the color of orange, let's say kind of an orange shade, but radiating from him or her, because you can't tell if it's a man or woman, radiating out is that color gradient, that little orange coming out from them from the lightning bolt, meaning that person felt the power of differentiation and is trying to spread it to everyone else. So what I'm saying is once you determine and you commit to something that's a little unique, that's where the fun begins, because then you can dig in deeper. You can come up with really cool visuals that can support what you're doing. I hope that helps you a little bit, but it's part science, part art. And you're very scientific, but we got to look at it. Hey, sometimes it's just, let's call it this. I like it. You like it. Let's commit to it. It's like naming a child or naming a rock band. There's no right or wrong sometimes.
I see. Yeah. It makes sense that in a creative process, you will never be 100% sure in anything.
That's right.
Because there is your viewpoint, there is a viewpoint of your client, there is a opinion of your team, and like this will never match.
That's right.
In 100 years. But what you're saying, I think it did help. I think I have an idea, and not really what's this word?
Uncharacteristic.
Yeah, and that is really, really uncharacteristic for me, because this idea has a visual, and I'm super proud of it because I've never had that. I do not think in visuals. That's not something that I can get. But this one, I was like, I made something. And I can see that for a MVP version of making it, we are good with stock footage, like absolutely. But then we can have a team party and create visuals that would be us, and it will work a little bit better. But we can already make it happen without it. So here is the other thing that I've been working out to extinguish this. I will go straight for the perfect right there and from the beginning, saying, what is the best way to represent this visual? Oh, we will need to hire a team of videographers and get our team, and then we'll collaborate and get all the best visual. I'm like, nah. I am getting stock footage first. We will put the words there. The stock footage will either work or not work. And I might have this genius level idea next time, and we will just replace everything.
Right. Do that. What you're doing there is really smart. The rock and roll band, the Rolling Stones, would do something like that. They would write songs, and before they recorded them in the studio, what they would do is they go to little bars or pubs in England, and they would play them on stage. They'd play 2 or 3 songs and then they'd leave. And the reason they did that was they wanted to try them out before they said, look, okay, we know the perfect way to perform these. And they learned a lot, because sometimes just going through that process, you learn things, and you actually can tweak or improve things as well. So what you're doing is the same thing. What you're doing is you're committing to an idea and you're experimenting with it, with the idea that what you've come up with may live on. It may be just exactly what you keep. But if it doesn't live on, then you learned a little bit and you can then improve it. But the big thing you're doing is you're making a decision, Alex, and you're moving on and doing something instead of doing nothing. And that's the best thing.
Awesome. All right. What would you say is your unique and fair advantage in what you do between creativity and team play and working with the right clients and being able to work in the system that you have branded and created, and you know everything within it?
I would say that the advantage that I'm fortunate to have is I can see the magic in people or in opportunities or in projects. So I understand or can see the potential. That gives me an opportunity to express it, whether it's to a client or to one of my team members, to inspire either of them. That is what I do, as opposed to take an order or fulfill some kind of a request. Again, though, it takes the right client or the right person to want that, to receive it and go, wow, this is great. But I look for magic in almost everything I do.
All right. And when is your book available for other audience?
The book is available now. It's on Amazon. It is available on Kindle. It is also available on paperback. If you go to my website, you will be able to buy it from me directly on hardcover. The audiobook is coming out shortly as well. So it is ready to be ordered as I speak.
Awesome.
It's called The Power of Differentiation, by the way, like I mentioned. And right now there's an opportunity on Kindle. They're putting it at a special price right now for the next couple of weeks.
Cool. I think that this is a great place to wrap up. And I want to thank you for this insightful conversation. And this is a high tier of being into the brand, into the business, and into the client's businesses, minds, and hearts.
Thank you, Alex. It's been a pleasure. I think you're a great interviewer, and I can tell that you truly, truly care and are involved in every one of your interviews. So I think it's a privilege working with you. So thanks a lot.